Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. Excuse me. Kal Yafai returned to action on the DAZN card from Abu Dhabi, and he won a unanimous decision, which does not tell the whole story of the fight, because this was, at least for the first 3 rounds, it was a very, very tough night's work for Kal. Kal, of course, he is the former super-flyweight champion. He made 5 successful defenses, and it took a man the quality of Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez to dethrone him. He knocked him out in 9 rounds. That was back in 2020. Kal hasn't fought since then. That was February 2020, so we're talking about 2 years and 9 months. Ooh, that's a long time since he's had a fight, and he's 33 now. And of course, it can go either way with these long periods of inactivity, because either the rest does you good, especially if you're knocking on a bit, and 33 is quite old for one of the very low weight division fighters, or it can mean that it's kind of like when you're doing a sponsored marathon walk and you stop and take your boots off. You putting them back on again don't matter. You're never going to feel good. Once you take your boots off, you need to sit down and rest for a long, long time. I think to move up to bantamweight, which is what Kal has done, was his only option. But of course, who have we got there? Inoue. I think what Kal is hoping for is that Inoue unifies the titles against Paul Butler. God knows becomes undisputed against Paul Butler, and God knows he's favourite to do that. Then he moves up and all the belts become vacant and Kal picks one up. Well, all of those plans, whatever they may be, nearly got blown out the water, because in the first round, Kal, a come-forward fighter, looking the bigger man against an opponent by the name of Jerald Paclar, who's from the Philippines, doesn't look more than a super flyweight himself. Kal comes out, and as we know, he's a sort of come-forward pressure fighter, not a huge puncher by any stretch of the imagination. 26 wins going in, had 15 stoppages. Quite a few of his defences have been on points. And, he puts the pressure, nice educated pressure, likes to fire a lot of body punches. But in the first round, it was almost all over, because Paclar, game little sod that he is, and I say little, he looks like a flyweight or a super flyweight. No shape or form did he look like a bantamweight. Clearly he was bought in. By the way, he had a record of 16 wins, 5 defeats, three draws, and I think about 8 victories were stoppage wins. Of his 5 defeats, 2 were by stoppage, but he'd only lost once for the last 5 years. And in fact, he only lost 1 fight in the last 5 years. And as we know, a lot of these Filipinos learn on the job. I mean, don't forget, Manny Pacquiao lost a couple of his early fights. I know he was already a world champ by that point, but he lost 2 by stoppage, 2 or 3 fights early on in his career before he started zipping through the weights. However he did that, we won't go into that. That's a video for another time, but he went through the weights. But when he was simply known in the Philippines as a smaller weight, a very small weight fighter, he suffered some defeats, and he suffered a couple of stoppages. So perhaps records for a lot of these Filipino guys like Paclar are deceptive, and Paclar is only 24, so it hints that he's learning on the job. But sure enough, in the first round against Yafai, he lands a huge overhand right, and Yafai hits the deck heavy. He gets up, possibly 3 seconds too soon. And Paclar's all over him like the proverbial sauce over spaghetti, slinging these huge overhand rights. Paclar's only got one method, and that's to come forward swinging hooks, huge hooks. He shakes Yafai again. Yafai has a tight defence. Throughout his career, he's held his hands very high. He likes to cover up. Paclar wasn't that interested in what Yafai was doing. He was just going to keep slinging those hooks, and he did tag Yafai with another couple of overhand rights that badly shook him, and Yafai wobbled back to the corner. Now in the second round, you would think Paclar's going to jump all over him. Not a bit of it. Didn't do it, and that was a mistake. Although at the end of the round, he did land another right hand, and it shook Yafai, and Yafai probably hadn't recovered from the first round with that heavy knockdown. Third round, I gave it to Paclar. Again, Yafai still looking a bit shaky and not really finding his timing. I mean, a lot of this could well be ring rust. That's a long time out, 2 years and 9 months. It could be ring rust. I don't think he's shot. I don't think it was an indication of being shot, although his punch resistance did look a bit shaky. I mean, when I see a shot fighter, I see a guy whose timing's gone, whose punch resistance has gone. It actually, as it turned out, it wasn't quite that bad for Yafai, although the first 3 rounds suggested it. Because from the 4th round onwards, Yafai was gradually getting back into it, finding his rhythm, going forward, firing a lot of body punches very wisely. That sucked a lot of the energy out of Paclar. And I think Yafai gradually took over. And by the 5th round, he kind of found his groove. And he was doing some very good work against, admittedly, a smaller, not by no means a world-class guy, but a smaller fighter. And yeah, Yafai kind of swept. I think I gave the first 3 rounds to Paclar and the next 7 to Yafai, which means I had what was that? What's that work out? 64, 63, which I think 2 of the judges had. Another one of the judges had it, I think 65, 64. But it was a unanimous decision to Yafai. But that doesn't tell the whole story. And this, okay, well, let's give Yafai a pass on this one, because that's a long time out. To find your timing, to find everything, to shed the rust, to sort of rediscover really yourself, your fistic identity is what I always call it. It does take time. You can do it in the gym, but once you get in front of those bright lights against a guy who's fired up, never mind that he was a lower level guy, the guy was still fired up and had come to win. That's the important thing. It does take rounds to shed that rust. So I think are the vultures circling Yafai? I can understand it if you say, yeah, he looked absolutely awful. He looked terrible for the first 3 rounds, but then once he found his groove, once he found his rhythm, you did see some good stuff from Yafai, especially the body punching. I liked a lot. So I'm going to give him a pass on this one. Although world class, like I say, the belts are going to probably they'll go up in the air. All 4 of the main belts will go up in the air, and Yafai will probably try and catch one of them as it's coming down. God help him if he ever gets in with someone like Inoue or Chocolatito again, or anyone who is top 5. I don't know. I would not expect Yafai to win that. I'd expect him to get stopped. But if he's matched right, he can still make a little bit of a splash in this bantamweight division, because once Inoue has gone, what's left? There's some decent fighters, but real killers, yeah, maybe. Don't forget, some of them might come up from light fly, from super-fly, excuse me. Anyway, what did you think? Did you watch this fight? What did you think of Yafai? Is he shot? Was this a rust shedding experience? I think he'll be better for this 10 rounds, even allowing for that awful first 3 rounds. But we'll see. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. I always like reading your comments. And of course, if you're new to the channel, subscribe, please. Takes a second, doesn't cost you anything. Hit the like button if you like the video. We will speak again soon, no doubt. We're going to do some more videos from this DAZN card from Abu Dhabi. So watch out for them. Thanks a lot for watching. Take care of yourselves.